Welcome to the Westside Investors Network, WIN, your community of investing knowledge for growth. This is the Real Estate Professionals Investing Podcast for real estate professionals by real estate professionals. This show is focused on the next step in your career, investing. Thank you for listening. And please, if you like our content, rate us on your podcast provider. Just a quick disclaimer, the views and opinions expressed in this podcast are for educational purposes only and should not be construed as an offer to buy or sell any shares or securities, make or consider any investments, or take any other action.
Welcome. I'm excited to be interviewing Stephen Morel today. He's the founder and CEO of JurisDeed. JurisDeed is the first AI platform for nationwide tax sale investing. They digitized expertise partnering with investors. Stephen was formerly a title attorney with 20 years of experience in property law, and he served on the Louisiana State Law Institute's Tax Sales Commerce Committee. And he has as well co-authored a complete redraft of the Louisiana's delinquent tax collection system. Stephen, very excited to have you on today. And I've got a lot of questions about JurisDeed and just your experience in tax deeds. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. This is great. I'm aware of the show and I'm happy to be a part of it. And hopefully we can bring something of value to your listeners. So as you mentioned, JurisDeed is an AI-powered platform that helps democratize access to tax lien investing from start to finish. Before now, this is a $20 billion industry. As far as every year, that's how many delinquent real estate taxes get severely delinquent to the point where counties and cities need to look elsewhere to have them collected so they can meet their budget for that year. So they created something called tax liens so they can offload the lien holder like a mortgage to a private investor, collect the cash, operate the county, move on to the next year. These are essential, dollars for basic public services, et cetera. So it's extremely, extremely important for them to have this collection mechanism. And in any given year, if one county did not collect at least 80% of their tax roll, their real estate tax roll, it would bankrupt the county. That's how important this is. So it's given this super lien status. It's heightened, it always outranks everything else, et cetera. It's secured by real estate. And so it's this kind of a unicorn of an investment type, if you will. It's federal, state, and local laws revere it. And it's like I said, and it's got typically a pretty attractive interest rate. And you're like, well, why isn't everyone doing that and just drop what you're doing and just do that? And that's where we come in, because the whole system is incredibly manual and is very siloed. It's fragmented by all the state laws. Every single state has different procedures for it. It's very cumbersome. It's complicated, and it's been dominated by institutional banks and financial groups for a century, and for good reason. They don't want to let it go. They don't want to let it go. So they don't want you to join in the fun. But much like Robinhood did with stocks and crypto, much like Robinhood did with stocks and crypto not long ago. It's like there's this thing out there that anyone could legally do, but not enough people do because it's just inaccessible, for whatever variety of reasons. And so we're breaking down those barriers and making it, available for anyone to generate wealth through that vehicle.
That's pretty exciting. Stephen, why don't you tell us, how your journey led you here to starting this company? I mean, obviously AI is, an extremely powerful tool. So that's really exciting, but why tax deeds?
Yeah, my story started. I was already practicing law for a couple of years, and like most lawyers, you try to get a job and you get plugged into the system, and you're mindlessly billing hours, and you're thinking about billable hours while you're on vacation, and it just is not fun, and it's not my personality. It's just what I did. It's just what I had at law school. And a couple of years after starting, I'm living in New Orleans, and Hurricane Katrina happened. And along with the vast majority of the city, my house flooded, destroyed, kind of flooded. And luckily, I was one of the first ones to come back. I'm a veteran of the Louisiana Army National Guard. and I had USAA insurance, and they had checks on the ground like in 2 months. I mean, they were the first ones there. And so I was able to rebuild and move back in. And then like by Christmas time, and then Katrina happened at the end of August.
Yeah.
And I drove around the city, and it was like the hurricane happened yesterday. It was still in shambles. And I'm like, I've got to do something. I loved my town. I moved back in. I'm not a real estate lawyer yet, but I really fell in love with the process of real estate, of the tangible change that I witnessed and was a part, got my hands dirty, learned everything about, the construction process and mold rehabilitation and values and refinancing, and met brokers and realtors and contractors. And I was like, you know what? This is what I want to do. And so I'd started my own title company and started doing there were tons of construction loans closings, as you might have guessed, in post-Katrina New Orleans. And then one day a realtor walks in that I was probably doing a construction loan for. And he said, you know what? I got this company out of town that's got a portfolio of tax deeds. I don't know if you know what that is or not, but they can't get any of these things moved. These are the ones that they didn't pay back. The debtor didn't pay it back in the required time period. And now our only option is to foreclose on it and take the deed, but they can't get clear title or title insurance. So they're stuck with it. They're like, can you help? And I had no idea what a tax sale was at that time, by the way. And I just stared them in the face and said, oh yeah, I got that. I can help.
They like, I love that.
Yeah, exactly. So like studying the book and looking at it and reading up on tax sales. And it just spiraled. There was nobody helping with this, and nobody was trying to resolve these. The law was set up to fail. The system was set up to fail, and all these properties were just building up in this backlog of uninsurable, inventory. Even the cities in the parishes, our counties or parishes, they were taking in these inventories when they couldn't even get the taxes sold, and at the delinquent tax sale. And so now we're facing 80% of the city is flooded. People are deceased. Over 1,800 people died in the storm. You have people that are never coming back, and you can't move property unless you know where all the owners are. And so it's like the city is never going to move forward. And then the time where they need funding the most ever, the number one source of that revenue is tax revenue, real estate tax, and nobody's at home paying it. And so it was just a really, really bad situation. I was like, I've got to be able to do this. And so I just went down that path and said, let me figure this out, and started working with title insurance underwriters saying, what are you really afraid of? Like, what if I built this whole system from ground up and got the risk level to would you sell an extra premium in exchange for if you'd be the only game in town doing it? And they were like, and finally got someone to say yes, and then developed the first little program, piloted it with the city of New Orleans. And in 2015, I went in-house with a software company that was already working for the city, collecting their delinquent annual real estate tax, doing the tax sales online. And I said, look, you have thousands of these properties that failed to sell, and you took them back in inventory and you can't get rid of them. What if I could put them up on an auction block, but guarantee clear title and insurance? My theory is that people will show up and want to buy them, because when you can get insurance, you can get a bank loan. Without it, you can't. And all of a sudden, a new pool of investors shows up, and it was a huge success. We went on, spread it throughout the state of Louisiana and even into other states. It was a program that it wasn't Louisiana specific. It was just risk mitigation. It was systematizing a process that they were afraid of for no reason other than they just didn't understand it. Underwriters. And so we finally figured it out. And then, there were over like 10,000 properties since then that have been moved that were deemed to be uncollectible. So this was in
years. Yeah. So in 2006, of course, I had a buddy who was going to school at Tulane. He was playing golf, and they canceled all of their sports. Yeah. It was
bad.
It was rough for him. And then he went to Alabama, and now he's a Roll Tide guy.
Oh, geez. Don't say that around here.
Well,
sure.
Yeah.
LSU through and through around here. So, but I don't know if you remember or not, that next year, the New Orleans Saints football team never played a home game. Their home games were in every state. They traveled around the country. They were awful the first year. They were good the following year.
Okay.
When they got Drew, the second year was when Drew Brees started and everything.
Yeah.
But the time frame was, so it was 2014 is when I got an insurance endorsement created with the Department of Insurance to insure over this risk, created the underwriting guidelines for an insurer, any insurer, to be able to sell the thing, and then got the contract with the city of New Orleans, partnered with the software company that I mentioned, and rolled it out. And people showed up and bought it. And it was like, wait, every government authority, every single parish in the state has these things. They can all do this. And it was just a slam dunk. At the end of 2019, I left there. I wasn't an owner of that company, and it was all kind of just running on autopilot this time. And I wanted to take some of these tools and really bring more software into what we were doing was still a very manual process. This underwriting thing, it was a team of lawyers and paralegals and abstractors and investigators and property managers and all this stuff like this. It was just very, very non-scalable. And I was like, man, this would be fantastic if we could systematize the whole thing for investors who have, the money and the capital to be able to keep investing more and more and more rather than government. And let's see where we can take this. And it was several years after starting that adventure where I didn't really know what that looked like, that I realized that the problem here is that there's no system that actually helps investors go all the way to profit, go all the way to liquidity, which is where you realize your gains, right? That's where you're actually experiencing the win. There's tons of late night gurus and books and courses that tell you about tax sales and how wonderful it is and how much the interest return. And they tell you all about what you need to do. And then you graduate from the course and they say, good luck, sucker. And you've already paid them the course fee. They're like, well, what do I do now? Like, go find an attorney, and I don't know. Hire them, and they'll tell you.
You even mentioned it yourself. There's this incredible investment that has lien priority, and the interest rates are guaranteed, wonderful. And basically, but like last time we chatted, you said that learning how to purchase these and purchase it is one hurdle, and right. that's a relatively big hurdle, but maybe an even larger hurdle is the solution that JurisDeed
right
kind of tackles. And so
you just bought it, now what? Right. Yeah. And that's where you can really, and now you put your money on the line, right? Before you bought it, it's your time, it's your energy, it's your, you don't want to waste that. But when you put your cash on the line, you become the lien holder, you better know what to do at that point, or else you're going to lose your time, you're going to lose your money too. And most likely you won't ever come back and do it again. You'll just be sunk, and wasted money. So there has never been a system out there or a resource that really partners with investors from the time they acquire it all the way through the time that they're cashing their checks and realizing their gains. It's always been fragmented. It's always been just go talk to somebody, go talk to an attorney or a title company or something. I don't know. And nobody's partnered with them to their success. And so, we started working with investors at the enterprise level at the very top because they were just looking for ways to, streamline things. It wasn't a burning desire, but that just happened to be who I knew. We started out working with these big hedge funds out of Omaha, and they were buying, $50 million of tax liens across 10, 12 states, et cetera. But the great thing there is we learned all of the tricks of the trade and how they had systematized this internally.
And $50 million at, a 12 or 13% return is pretty solid. You can't do that in multifamily, to do something like at that scale, it's right. It gets pretty interesting at those really, really, really high numbers. If you've got $10 million to invest, you get to spread it out a little bit among, different assets. But, if you're buying 1,000 or 10,000 tax liens or tax deeds, then you've got 1,000 or 10,000 potential problems.
Yeah, it's very, there's a system here. There's a playbook. There's a reason why these big companies they've made a lot of money over the years doing this. And they've had a lot of resources. They're well funded. They're well capped. They can withstand long holding times. All these things, and they have a network of attorneys across different states. The fragmentation, they sort of kind of band-aided together. Like they said, okay, well, yeah, we'll just have John in Tennessee and Bill in Mississippi, and we'll just have people to manage the people. And they were making so much money that it was okay to have inefficient, people-heavy systems like that. Plus, this is decades ago when they were first kind of, when they were really, these groups were getting together, and the modern technology didn't even exist. But in today's day and age, with the technology that we have, those barriers that kept everyone else from even trying, or kept the mid-level or small, medium-sized investors from having the kind of gains that the enterprise was having, they're artificial now. And it just takes someone to break them down. Those barriers to entry and to success are things that we are resolving at JurisDeed, and are allowing everyone to have the same level of success that the enterprise has enjoyed for a century.
Do you want to break it down, kind of give us some of the, nitty gritty, like some of the solutions that JurisDeed provides, where,
yeah, sure.
A couple examples of where something would be pretty time consuming to have to figure it out in like different states, different counties, etc., where it's streamlined with JurisDeed?
Yeah, sure. I mean, well, the first thing is to think about, you got to have the right mindset. Like, so this is a delinquent debt, right? So this is, imagine acquiring mortgage notes, but they're already in default, right? You're acquiring them at the default stage to take it from default to liquidation through foreclosure or workouts or whatever. That's a tax lien, right? It's secured by the property, it's delinquent, and it's enforceable. And what that means is that it's going to hinge on application and compliance of laws. That's how you get to liquidity. You have to comply with laws. That's why the courses tell you go talk to a lawyer. I don't know. And so what JurisDeed initially does is takes every single state that has its own set of rules and laws that you have to abide by if you're going to play in the tax lien game in that state and be successful with it, and automates the compliance aspects of it. So you don't need to know. It doesn't really matter whether you know how to do it, or you don't have to worry about going and hiring somebody to do it. At some point, there's some work that has to be done for you to maintain your investment. It's time sensitive. It's not forgiving. If you miss the deadlines, you could lose your rights, et cetera. And so no matter where you are, we have a multi-state kind of a rules engine, so to speak, that's the backbone of the intelligence in the system. And because most investors, they make the returns that they're going for in tax liens by getting to a certain level of scale. And typically that involves more than one state. And so even if it didn't, though, just in one state where most people start, you're going to have to comply with that state's laws. And even though it's okay, you only have to comply with one set of laws, it's still really cumbersome work. You're talking about over 1,000 data points per property, that makes up the detail, the legal description, the meets and bounds, the assessment, the tax, the ownership, the chain of title, all this stuff, and all of it matters. And think about this: there are 3,140 something counties in America, and they all operate on their own independent playbook, and that's where tax sales start. And so you don't just have 50 states, you have over 3,100 different systems. And that's just assuming that, like in New Jersey, they sell it at the city level, not at the county level. So there's 500 tax sales in the state of New Jersey every year. It's crazy. It's just too much to keep up with if you're going to, and most investors, you already have a day job. Like you're probably trying to do a second stream of income, have some passive income or whatever. You don't have time to learn all that. How are you going to be, so it's impossible burden. What we've done is normalize all that.
Like a pretty large barrier to entry.
100%. I agree.
Even acquiring, like when you mentioned that there's, 3,600 tax sales, and that for you to be successful, you need to be attending and acquiring tax deeds from multiple different tax sales. I mean, that's a pretty large hurdle in itself. It's just acquiring the liens.
Yeah. The acquisition part, again, that's not where we're starting. It's in our roadmap that eventually, as we grow, we're going to expand to more aspects of it. And then the front end of things, we are building a pretty robust education and information center that we're going to make available to all of our platform subscribers once we launch the platform, which isn't live yet. We're in closed beta with a handful of heavy users, who are giving us feedback. But later this year, when we launch the platform, we're going to have an education center, which is going to allow you to self-service and have courses and master classes, that kind of stuff, but really not to generate a big line of revenue like some people do as their exclusives. That's their business, right? Is selling courses. Really just to make smarter customers and make you feel more confident and comfortable with getting into the investment. Because if you don't get in the investment, you don't become a customer, right? And so we're just helping our pipeline and making you feel more confident about and probably more likely to have success because of the content is going to be such. It's going to come from attorneys and from title insurance underwriters and the best in the business. So it's not going to be any kind of fly by night, or then that's not where you butter your bread. You're doing it because you care about your customers. You care about their success, not because you're trying to make a buck from that. And that's a whole different story when you think about the quality of that information. But getting back to your question about what we're doing is, we're starting with the investors who are already trying to play in the space, who are already maybe struggling to make the returns that they were hoping to make, or maybe are ready to do it and just don't know where to turn. Or maybe they did it last year and are now just realizing, oh, what do I do now? I need help. All of those are great personas of who we can serve right out the gate. And then we'll evolve to a broader spectrum, just like most startup companies. You'll eventually go from a niche to a broader audience. But once you've done all the legal compliance work while the lien is maturing, there's a certain time period. No matter what state you're in, after you acquire it, there's gonna be a time period where you have to kind of sit on it. You have to let time for the tax debtor to pay it off without any severe consequences. They'll pay it with interest and penalties, and you'll get a return that way.
And now here's a word from our sponsor.
Get things done while you're on the move. Learn more about working with a virtual assistant through Offsite Professionals. It's a great way to get all the things done that you need to get done. Have freedom in your time and streamline your life by automating your business. Stop spending time on the tasks that you can delegate and start spending more time on your superpower. Call us today at 503-446-3177 or visit our website at offsiteprofessionals.com.
Uptown Syndication is now offering a syndication coaching program for you to take your real estate portfolio to the next level. This is your opportunity to have experienced syndicators, AJ and Chris Shepard, coach you on your way to controlling your real estate investing future. Our coaching program will provide you with the tools and framework needed to begin syndicating real estate in your target market. Go to uptownsyndication.com today to learn more.
Hey, let me ask you, what if tax season was actually exciting? I know, it sounds crazy, but not when you've got the right playbook. At mymoneyworksforme.com, we put together the Pro Tax Strategies playbook that real estate professionals use that you may not know about. You'll learn how to crush taxes with depreciation and rep status, how to stack smart write-offs from the Augusta rule to vehicles, and the ultimate wealth hack, 1031 exchanges and vacation rentals. It's free, it's powerful, and it's waiting for you at mymoneyworksforme.com, because your money should work as hard as you do.
Yeah,
But
and
if they
that
don't,
period varies from state to state.
it does. And obviously we have that
Does
normalized.
it vary from county to county, or is that more state law?
No, not. I mean, not as far as I know. There are maybe New York City or something like that. But other than that, no, it's pretty much standardized at the state level. And so, but then after that time period passes, just to kind of jump ahead in the timeline here. First off, about 90%, 88 to 90% of all tax liens that are sold across the country will redeem, meaning they will pay back within that limited time period, because people typically don't want to lose their properties. They maybe fell on hard times. There's 1,000 reasons why, but that's good if because it shows you that you're really doing this to get an interest return. It's not a great way to go acquire a bunch of property, not a tax lien stuff. There are other ways to acquire the deed from the county like these counter sales and whatever. There's different terminology for it. Yeah, sure, go for it. But the tax lien is more, think of it like an asset class that you can generate a return in, that you can grow wealth in, almost like you're like a 401k, right? You're just putting money into a system that is you want to grow value to over time. The way that you grow value is not because a corporation has greater earnings, like stocks. You are literally following laws. That's what you're doing. You're following. You're doing the right thing. It's going to naturally happen if you just do the right thing. And we've made sure that you don't have to worry about that. So we've given you the confidence that you can succeed without needing to know how to do it.
Ooh, and so I guess you mentioned something about the difference between tax deeds and tax liens, and
liens and deeds.
Yes, liens and deeds, and I think that I've been mentioning tax deeds. Can you explain the difference to us?
Yeah, I mean, it's very similar context to mortgages. So think about a mortgage as like a lien, right, against the property. It's not ownership. It's not title to the property, right? A deed would be ownership of the property. So certain states choose to enforce their collection of delinquent taxes through a tax deed system. And what that means, they are not selling the lien against the property for collection of the delinquency, like the mortgage is. They're selling quasi title to the property because they've kept the lien in house during that maturity period that where a private lien holder would have. So liens, think about it, you're much closer to the delinquency date when you buy the lien, and then there's the maturity period, and then after the maturity period, there's the potential to sell a deed. And in the states that have employed that system basically said, we don't want to sell the liens. We want to try to collect in-house, do all the legal compliance stuff ourselves. And then if that doesn't work, then we'll sell a quit claim deed to somebody, wants to buy this and maybe have to go file suit on it to clear it up or whatever. But tax deeds do not necessarily give you clear title, but it gives you quasi title. Like you, on the surface, you are the owner, but you may not have merchantable title yet. You may have to go into court and still get a judge to bless it, or you might have to go into an auction or a title insurance company to cure any defects, et cetera. So that's the difference. You're jumping ahead in the time.
JurisDeed mainly focuses on tax lien, just managing large amounts of tax liens.
So I'm glad you asked that question, because if you think about it, what I just told you is that if the trigger or the defining line where a lien kind of becomes more like a deed, kind of turns into a deed because it matured enough, right? It's past the redemption period. Even though it came out of a state that has a tax lien system, if it didn't pay off and now your post redemption period, your option is to foreclose on it. It's not ownership, but you kind of have to treat it like something that you have to go do something with now. I mean, you got to liquidate it, right, to get your money out. So you're gonna have to foreclose on it, and maybe even you sit on it for a while, and you're like, you know what, I just want to cash out. I'd love someone to take this off my hands. Let me assign it to somebody else. Mortgage companies do this all the time, right? Mortgage companies that are servicing loans that are being paid, and then it falls into default. They're like, oh, let me send it over to this company.
A short sale, or
yeah. So there's different markets with very undefined and very unregulated, but there are different segments of the market in tax liens too, who just look for the ones that are near the end of the delinquency, I'll take it and go to foreclosure. That's what I love, because I want the property. The lien holders are like, I just want my money out so I can go invest it in the next tax lien sale. Just like a mortgage company would want their money back to go lend out to somebody else, right? They don't want to get tied up in 3 years of foreclosure. And so it's a very, very similar system. That's why I keep coming back to that mortgage analogy, because it really simplifies it for most people. You think about it, because everybody knows mortgages and they do foreclosures, that kind of stuff. It's really the same thing. And
you mentioned that the tax liens they're superior to or more senior than mortgage debt.
Yes. Yeah. Even if they came afterwards.
Yeah. And that's
why
the lender wants to escrow taxes, because they can become subordinated.
And Correct. And a lot of redemptions ultimately happen because the lender goes and pays it on behalf of the tax debtor, and then they just tack it onto the mortgage debt because they know that they're in that kind of posture. They're in a defensive posture because the tax lien trumps them.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
So, like, let's say that you buy a tax lien and you bought it for 2025, and now it's October, and you're still in the redemption period, and you're 99% certain that the homeowner is not going to pay their 2026 taxes. So what happens? Essentially, I think you had mentioned you want to have enough capital to continue to pay, but what if you don't pay for 2026? Like, let's say that you've paid for 3-4 years in a row, and essentially, like, the amount of money that you've raised for that investment is not, you're out of what you planned for, and I guess the workout's taking longer than you thought.
Yeah. So you're hypothetical. You're already a lien holder in an earlier year, and it's taking too long, and you were hoping for an early redemption. It didn't happen, and now that's the beauty of what we're evolving into. We've already started it, which is our asset management and liquidation department. When we decided to create a solution that partners with you all the way through profit or liquidity, we meant it. And it doesn't leave you short when you come across a situation where, we don't do that part. You have to go find some other help for that part. Otherwise, the whole premise fails, right? So if you end up with a lien that you're stuck with and it didn't happen, then you have to liquidate it. Well, how does that happen? Well, either you foreclose on it through the state law that you're in, if it's timely enough and you're eligible for it, or you assign it to somebody else who wants to take it up and go from there. And so we've already created a secondary marketplace for distressed tax liens that are already in circulation. And that's why we call it the secondary market, primary being the point which you buy it from the government.
Yeah.
And so you want out, somebody else wants in, I guarantee you. And we just need to make that connection, and then we can formalize the transaction on the platform. So your path to liquidity is our mission, and we take that very seriously, because it probably made a difference in maybe you getting into the investment. You're like, oh, I have a solution. Honey, look, if we get stuck, I'm going with the JurisDeed guys. Like they'll help us get unstuck, And like, so then they get to that sticky point, and we say, no, we can't help you. Like that would be a pretty short-lived client experience. Yeah. And so, we have, how do we help that? Well, I'm already familiar with the fact that there's a tons of unorganized groups that would love to buy your lien. They just have no idea who you are and that you have this thing for sale. And so, bringing together a marketplace where that commerce can take place, and a willing seller and a willing buyer can make both sides happy. So that's one way. We're also financing is another big thing. It's very difficult to get financing if you're using it towards buying tax liens or deeds. Banks traditionally just don't like the asset. It's too volatile. It's not secured enough. It changes form and format, and every state's different. And so, but there are lenders who will lend and certain lenders actually live in this space. They just kind of like, just fall into it, and you become a nerd in it. And we have a couple of partners there, and we're working out a program right now where we'll be able to make financing available through our platform as well to our customers, where either you need money to get into a deal, or you need to be bought out. And potentially our system could even make you an offer and buy you out of your position. And then we'll find the buyer for that lien down the road.
So, all right, let's kind of jump back. And so can you share a couple of like people or stories that have been successful with tax liens, and essentially like kind of show our audience what the upside looks like, and just like show the benefits of getting into it. I can kind of see it in my mind.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to hear, some of the people and the businesses that have succeeded in the space.
So the reason I know is because I'm one of the stories. So when I was still, a private practice before the software company days and before the JurisDeed days, I was, working with some private investors with their own portfolios. And one of them was a close buddy of mine from college. And he was like, "Hey, I love this kind of investment stuff. And I got some cash to burn, but I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So how about we partner together? You'll be my guy. You do all the stuff and we'll, and I'll compensate you appropriately." And so I said, "All right, cool, let's do it." And so I was more of an equity partner in that deal. And this was something he maybe bought like 150 unredeemed tax liens beyond the redemption period. So these are, the matured ones. And
so they basically they needed to be foreclosed on or
right. Now the group that he bought it from was a huge financial institution that makes 15 to 18% year over year just on the redemption part. So they got the rest of their cash for these unredeemed ones, and they're trucking. So the story about the interest play is just a reality of the situation, and the only ones who have experienced it have been the bigger companies. And so that's as far as that part of the story. But the more like personalized portion of it is this. So we worked up the portfolio over 18 months or so. We did a lot of workouts. People we would do skip tracing and track down heirs and owners and try to find somebody who cared about saving this property, and eventually would do deals, quick claims with them, and just make a margin, whatever. Some of them, no answer, and it was valuable enough to file a foreclosure action on it. And so, and of course, being a lawyer, I was able to do that. One of them was in a up and coming area of New Orleans. It was lots of properties that what in New Orleans, the renovations are, they add on top of it. They add like a camelback, whatever, because we're not getting any bigger. We're pretty constrained between lots of bodies of water. And so this was a perfect opportunity for that. You saw camelbacks going up all around. And this was a single story house and just like waiting to be, and there's a little old lady who lived in there, and she was not the original titled owner. And when we approached her, she was like, she had inherited the property. She had never paid taxes in her life, of property taxes. Because that just wasn't her thing. I mean, she just happened to fall into ownership, right? So she didn't even, nobody helped her. And I was like, look, the back due portion of this is like this much money. She couldn't pay it. Like, okay, all right, what can you afford? And so we actually helped her get into to move out amicably. We paid her first month's rent, her security deposit, found something that she could afford on her, or whatever her monthly revenue was. And it was very peaceful. That was part of the story. That was like a nice little side story. Like, well, that's a good thing to do. We ultimately took the title, of course, and we renovated it, and we added the camelback.
Oh, wow. So you guys flipped it.
Yeah, we did, because it had that much upside to it. So it was like that diamond of your portfolio where you're like, I'm holding on to this one. And we flipped it. And literally the day we put it on the market, we had an all cash offer. I mean, it was like, because the cost basis, how the old adage is that you make your money when you buy, not when you sell, right? So if you could overbuy, kind of screwed, right? And so the cost basis of tax liens is so low. Even if you're paying subsequent years' taxes and keeping up with it, it's not like you're buying the house. You're getting the house because you bought the taxes. And so your cost basis was just really, really low. We were able to make a hell of a deal on a price that kind of undercut the market. We got cash sale like that. Well, I had been dating this pretty young lady for a while by that time, and she was probably feeling a little bit of the pressure of what to do next. And look, I was still trying to get my law firm off the ground. I didn't have a pot to piss in, or you know what. And so when we closed on this deal, that girl got an engagement ring, and she's still my wife today with our 2 little kids. And so there's a success story.
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty amazing. So it was one out of the 150 that turned out
that's a home run, right? And that's why it's a fun story to tell. We had many, many singles and doubles along the way. I mean, in every one of those workouts, I think we probably threw into the trash can. Like there's just nothing you can do with these. I can't even find it. Like it's not even in the assessor doesn't even know where it is. I think we probably threw away, maybe like 5% of the portfolio that is just like not even worth our time.
Yeah.
We probably had 2 that were, oh my God, grand slams. That was one of them. And so there were 2 in that batch. And then everything else kind of fell somewhere in the middle, like singles, doubles, and triples. And we made a lot of money. And
did your friend ever tell you what the return on the portfolio was?
I knew because I was his lawyer. So yeah, I mean, it was crazy. And I hate to say it because like then it's kind of like the late night guru guys who are like, yeah, you can make 40, 50% on your whatever. And they're like, they don't really tell you how to do it, or they don't care if you fail. But it was in that range. It was in the 40% range. And that's awesome, but it's the little fine print results, not typical, right? Of the little infomercials. But it's if you know what you're doing, I don't think it was an accident. My friend, knowingly or not, partnered with someone who knew how to work the system, knew how to, could be the lawyer, could be the builder, could be could be the renovator, could manage everything. And he had personalized experience. That's not very scalable from my perspective, but it worked, right? And it's like, well, maybe we can bottle that service up into some software that's powered by the intelligence that that we can now like scale me, or I don't say that with any ego. I just mean like the what he got out of it, right? And then be able to offer that to more people.
But then, it's also, how do you get that 100 or 150 property portfolio, that has a couple diamonds in it?
Yeah. And that's why I think the secondary market is such a huge opportunity, because it's completely untapped. I mean, there have been a couple of places in the past that have tried to bring it together and they have failed. And I think that's because they didn't understand the power of effective marketing and how important that is in business and trust and in thought leadership. And people aren't going to just like hand over their assets to you because you happen to be standing there. It's like, I need to trust you, and I need to know that I'm going to be made better because I'm trusting you to my portfolio. And it just hasn't been any service that's come along that people have that's been able to pull that all together, bring both sides of an unstructured marketplace together, convince them all that this is the place to be. I mean, that's not easy to do. I did that and I'm the one who sought out that portfolio. I did that just by networking. I mean, I like extensive networking and eventually talk to the right person, and that's not scalable either, right? From my perspective.
There has to be like a stack of paperwork for each one, right? Like there needs to be like proof and all of the notices, and that everything has kind of stayed compliant. And
yep.
I mean,
so back then,
pretty heavy. Yeah. It was very heavy lifting to ensure that there was, an actual valid like opportunity
process.
And
that's right.
And now, well, has anything changed?
Quite a bit has changed. And I can tell you, I swam in that paper for years of my life, returned unopened green cards. Mail day was awful because it was just the boardroom table with stacks of bins of, all this kind of green cards and envelopes and letters and folding and stuffing.
That's like my worst nightmare.
And then 90% of them come back unopened anyway, like no such address, no return. It's a fool's errand, and it's awful. And nobody signed up to do that kind of stuff. So again, it's another, but we don't do it either anymore. And so everything that we built today is completely digitized, but it does not skimp on what's required from a legal and title insurance standpoint. That's where I started my training. That's the paradigm I'm operating through. Is if you have all laws complied with and you can get merchantable title, you're going to win. You're going to win. And the only way to do that is to do it right. There are no shortcuts. Now, what we have expedited and streamlined is all that manual labor, the fragmented rules, that sometimes change year to year. They new set of rules. Louisiana just came out with a whole new set of the whole new tax sale system this year, completely different. If you were basing we have a bunch of LinkedIn articles and podcasts on this now. Like if you were basing your strategy off of last year, you still are you're going to lose. It's a completely different system. It's like a different state. Man. Like, how do you keep up with that? Wait, I thought it was just 50. No, now it's 50. That actually changed from time to time. Come on, man.
I thought that, property management was hard.
It probably is, but that's not, I can only solve one problem at a time. So this is the one we've chosen, and this is our lane. So.
Yeah. Well, Stephen, we are at the end of the interview, and I'd like to ask you our 4 last questions. Normally it's AJ and myself, tag teaming this, but I get to ask AJ's questions today too. So I'll start off with his last question, which is, what's one piece of advice you would give to your 25-year-old self?
I would say trust in your instincts. They're usually more right than they are wrong.
Oh, this is just so funny since we did this, where this is a re-podcast. That's the exact same answer you had last time.
Did it really? What? I have to stop to think about it.
Trust myself more and start building in public.
Oh, yeah. That's another good one. That is something I would say.
Yeah. Okay. Next one is, what's your first entrepreneurial endeavor?
Oh, I do remember this one too. So I sold snowballs, which is in New Orleans, with snow cones, ice cones, whatever. Ices in the summertime for 25 cents, unless you throw another nickel on there for condensed milk.
There you go. Oh, this is amazing. Okay. And then how has your formal and informal training shaped your journey?
Yeah, formal training is a no-brainer. I mean, I was a lawyer and then real estate lawyer and then title insurance agent. I mean, all of these things have just been ingrained in helping me to accelerate delivering solutions in this space. I mean, there's no question about it. I live it every day, and I don't have to think about it. It just is part of my what I offer now. And informally, I was in the Army, as I mentioned, and that there's an intangible with military vets, and I can't speak for every single one of them, but for everyone I've ever known, there's a never say die, never quit kind of attitude. And if you get knocked down, it's just you figure out what not to step in next time. Jocko Willink is a great podcast. I love everything he's ever written, and he says, when you face adversity, something bad happens to you, you stare at it and you say, "Good, I know what not to do next time. I'm smarter."
That's very cool. So I wanted to follow up on, you mentioned your legal training as, a key differentiator. Would you say that it's the training or the fact that you're working in the field, like getting the experience? Like, would you say that the formal training, like, going to law school, passing the bar, is what got you to where you are now, or is it practicing law and gaining experience in real estate?
That's a great question. I've never been asked that question before, and it brings a very, very distinct clarification answer. 100% after law school ended, like after bar exam, like almost none. I would say very little of what was the academic side of the practice of law, the testing side, the continuing education side. Not that it's worthless or anything. I'm just telling you, like, what I attribute the value to what I do now is the application of those concepts in the real world in this lane. And but I probably would not have been able to gain that had I not had that academic training.
Well, I wouldn't be able barrier to entry. I mean, every single attorney that we ask this question, they're like, without a doubt, my legal background, the legal training, like, but the barrier to entry and the, like, being given or allowed to practice law and gain that experience is only available to a select few. And it's pretty incredible. Like, and I've just always felt so interested because I never like went down that path. And, you know, like every attorney that I talk to who's in real estate is like, without a doubt, the experience of practicing law in real estate, the situations, the circumstances, what you learn is so valuable.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think it's really interesting because, you know, it's only, you know, attorneys who are interested in real estate. And like most attorneys, I would say, you know, don't practice law in real estate. And so like, it's actually a very like niche area. Like there's just not that many attorneys who even consider real estate investing a thing.
Right. And then to say that, take it an even step further is delinquent real estate, and then delinquent tax liens as the type of delinquency, you know, like it's a super, which just happens to be a $20 billion industry. It's a, you know, it just goes to show you how humbling the real estate industry is as a whole, right? In the trillions. But it's the application of it in day to day. There's no question about it that has led me to this point.
Yeah, I mean that's almost a whole podcast in itself of just like what could be learned practicing law in real estate. So that's it may be a follow-up episode.
I love it. You're right. I could share. That would be a fun one to do, no doubt.
Yeah. Okay, and then our final question: what was your biggest mistake, and what did you learn?
Biggest mistake was, ironically, leaning on that experience too early on and building my own company, building my own startup. So very, very different as a startup. You have to go create something that doesn't exist yet, and talking to customers or who you think is your customer until you figure out who your customer is and what they really want to pay you for before you go build what you want to build for them, rather than leaning on your expertise and saying, oh, I know what they want. I know what they need. Or even filling in the blanks with what you think you know. It's not about you. You have the honor and the privilege of being able to create a solution that they've never had before that makes their life better. That's a privilege. And it's not about you. It's about you figuring out what they need and then providing it.
Yeah. Well, Stephen, it's been wonderful again. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and being on the podcast.
It was fun. Second time was just as fun as the first time.
If anybody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way they can reach out?
Yeah, so our beta platform is not live yet, but our website is JurisDeed.com, JurisDeed. I'm also on LinkedIn, and we just launched our own podcast last week, which is the Innovative Investor Podcast. Check it out. We're doing a whole series on Louisiana's new tax sale system first, and we'll be diving into the more national scene in a couple of weeks. But we're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the different channels.
Well, phenomenal. Thank you again.
All right. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Real Estate Professionals Investing Podcast on Win, your community of investing knowledge for growth. We hope that this episode has increased your knowledge and added value to your path to freedom. If you would, please take a second to rate us so that we can get more great investors to interview. If you or someone that you know wants to be on, please visit westsideinvestors.com and fill out our form to be on the show. Thank you again and enjoy your day.